And the jogging suit.
You know what? There's only one other person I know that wears stuff like that for working out. Do you know that? You know who that is?
No.
Brent.
All right, guys, welcome back. It is the Built by Vitality podcast. I am Steve Pinkerton. I'm sitting next to Philip Lewis, who is having a great day today.
I was until I got here.
We have a mandatory physical fitness exercise time after we're done with this, and Philip is not pleased.
Just so everyone knows, we had a 100 rep bench press yesterday. I made it to 52.
In how long?
52 minutes.
Okay.
So basically a 1 rep EMOM.
one rep on the minute every minute.
Yep.
Okay. In today's episode, we're going to do a review of a commercial that I saw a few weeks ago. And when I first saw this commercial, I immediately told Philip, I said, hey, man, this commercial came out. It's from a German pharmaceutical company. It's really cool. We should look at it. I think this is something that we should do or CrossFit should do. And he looked at me like I had a third eyeball out of my forehead, just because it's hard to explain the video until you watch it. So what we thought we'd do today is take you through it and kind of give you our review on the commercial and stop it at different parts and talk through some things. So if you haven't seen this, we'll link it below, and you can watch it through, or you can watch it the first time with us and our feedback. But I think this is a really, I would call it powerful.
Yeah.
The first time Philip watched it, I caught him. He cried. And that's okay.
My allergies was actually bothering me.
Yep, it was. Yep, allergy season, which is okay.
That's fine.
Guys can cry.
That's true.
I'm not saying
just
that you
not
can't.
me.
Just not me.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I've cried before. I had to have at some point in my life.
Because you were hurt. It wasn't like feelings. It was like you were hurt.
Yeah.
You had an injury.
All right. So we're doing this cool thing where Philip can somehow splice the video and us into here.
I got it on a tripod right here, my phone. I'm going to screen record it, but I'm going to take that screen recording and I'll probably hide the tripod.
Very cool. Now, the other thing is, if you're not tuning into YouTube to watch this, it might not be as beneficial of a podcast because you're not going to see what we're talking about.
That's true. So, Jess, if you're listening, we have a YouTube channel, and you can head on over to Vitality Fitness's YouTube channel and check it out on the Built by Vitality playlist.
I'm not laughing at you, Jess. I'm laughing with you. Philip is laughing at you. Okay, so again, this is from a German pharmaceutical company, which is a very interesting dynamic of why they'd create this commercial, but whatever, we're not going to talk about that. But I think this just really plays into how important it is to stay fit and how that applies to our overall quality of life. So you want to hit this?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So it starts, I'm going to call, guess his age. 80.
I was going to say early 70s, but that's pretty close.
Okay, 70 to 80 years old.
Yeah.
And it's a cool intro. It shows him he's alone in his house, and he's kind of looking at some pictures, some framed pictures. And I don't think it's hard for any of us to put ourselves in that position and think about, man, at some point, the majority of our life is going to be behind us, and we're going to look back and we're going to have so many memories.
You don't really think about that until you hit like 30 or more, maybe. Like when you're in your 20s and especially younger, you never think about what it's going to be like when you get older, ever.
Yeah.
Or I didn't at all.
I think now that I have kids, I've got 12 and 7, I think now I can start to picture life when they're not in the house anymore, and that starts to get you know, sad and troubling. Like as much as kids are.
For you or Jess?
I think it's funny because you don't realize how much freedom you had when you don't have kids until you have kids. And then you have kids, and as much anxiety, stress, frustrations they cause, you can't really picture your life without that stress. And now you're like, man, at some point, these kids are going to have their own lives, and they're not going to, you know, want to snuggle with that. Yeah, you know. So I think it's something that you can definitely relate to. And he somehow gets some idea in his head, and he walks out to this garage and dusts off this old kettlebell, which I would say is a 35-pounder. What do you think?
I was going to say a little bit heavier, maybe a 53. It looks like a 53 to me. I don't know.
It looks bigger.
It looks bigger, but maybe it's not.
I don't think it's that heavy. But anyway, he dusts it up, and he can barely pick it up.
Yeah.
And so then this is day 2, and we'll play a little bit more of this now. All right, let's stop that. So 2 things here. The miserable lady next door.
Yep.
All right.
We'll call that, what are those called these days? Karens. But if your name's Karen and you're listening to this, no offense. That's just what it's called now.
It's just, you know, I think that kind of hit me as why is it there's such a stigma around exercise?
Yeah.
It's almost like when we're younger, there's a stigma that you shouldn't be working out because you're too young, you know, teenagers.
Yeah.
And then you get older, and anybody that puts their physical fitness as a priority is suddenly like, oh, you can't do that, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. It's like the older you get, the less you should do.
Yeah. And I would argue it's more dangerous to not train than it is to train. Now, obviously, we have to tweak the programming and tweak the design of it based on your age and your abilities. But I've said for years that your quality of life is going to be tied to how mobile you are. If you can't squat below parallel, then I don't know how you're going to sit in the toilet.
I used to think people in nursing homes was there just because they were crazy.
Yeah.
Some of them might be. I mean, they might have, you know, mental whatever. But most of them are there because they can't tie their shoes. They can't bathe themselves. They can't get around. They don't have any mobilization whatsoever.
Yeah.
So they have to have somebody do that for them.
And that is, and that's true. You know, I think there's so much that goes into your physical health, and the longer you can prolong that decline, because I talk about this with my older clients now. There comes a point when training is no longer an upward slide. It is a downward trending line and on the graph. And all we're trying to do is trying to get that as level as we can, plateau that thing out. You're not going to get better. Yeah, it's kind of like you.
Like what I'm doing now.
You're training for later on in life.
Today
I
I'm
love
just trying to maintain.
And I think so many people are expecting, they're so used to, you know, improving things. When you get to a certain age, I would argue 50, 55, 60, it's not about improving, it's about slowing the decline. And the longer we can slow that down, the more we're going to progress that problem down the road.
Yeah.
And I think this is just something where it rubbed me the wrong way. You see that lady, and she immediately has something nasty to look at this guy, you know, and kind of discourage him.
What's this crazy guy doing?
And what
did he do? It kind of bother him. He went back inside.
He went back inside.
He let it bother him.
It's crazy, you know.
Unless you can look at it another way. Maybe he was dragging it out just to. That was part of his workout.
Oh.
He's just trying to move it around before
he better pick it up.
He needs to pick it up.
And then the last thing before we get back to it is he picked it up and did like a chest press with it. And when I saw that, I was like, what in the world kind of German kettlebell stuff are we doing here?
He's working out that lower back. Boy, the further the weight is away from you, heavier it is.
I thought that was very interesting. The first time I saw that, I was like, wow, I do not understand this at all. But whoever created this video obviously has never used a kettlebell in their life, is what my thought was. So now we're getting to day 3. Looks like he's going to put up a picture, some type of motivation.
Karen.
All right, let's stop it. This was another thing that kind of that hit me. At some point, we're going to look at a version of ourselves that is much different than what we remember when we were younger. And that's got to be tough.
Yeah.
That's got to be tough. Right now, we're used to being able to have really no limitations. We're limited by our imagination. We're limited by very little. But pretty soon, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to be a much more limited human being. And that's a scary thing for me.
I think he had regret when he looked in the mirror. He's like, man, like I let myself, like, look at me. Where'd the time go? I'm old now. I look way different. I think he was just having some kind of regret right there.
Yeah. And
then he's seen the people moving the Christmas tree. He's seen the family next door, opposite of Karen's house, I guess the other side. And the dad looked like he threw a Christmas tree up on his shoulder and was carrying it in for his family. He's like, man, I used to do it. God, I can't do nothing now.
Yeah. And I think that's got to be discouraging. That's got to be, I wonder for guys like us that grow up in this environment. Because here's the thing. There's not a lot of people that grow up in a gym environment, that work at a gym, and it's got to be something that scares people, because it scares me. Like, at some point, I'm not going to be the one that my kids look to and be like, hey, he can do anything. Like, there's nothing my girls don't think I can do.
Yeah.
And whenever they ask me if I'm stronger than whoever, I always say yes. But sooner or later, they're going to stop asking me that because they know the answer.
Yeah.
And it's got to be just a debilitating mental challenge for those guys. So now he's back at it. He's getting back up again. And it seems like there's a different trigger each day that's kind of letting him kind of stay motivated. So let's see what's next. So now this is the first glimpse we get of, looks like his daughter and granddaughter. And
like how she called him and he covered it up after she done seen it.
A little bit late.
Yeah.
You can't really hide a kettlebell like that, but okay. And the jogging suit. You
know what? There's only one other person I know that wears stuff like that for working out. Do you know who that is?
No.
Brent.
He can get away with it, I guess. He does.
Right.
But I mean, that, the purple and white.
Yeah. It's like he's in Charlotte Hornets.
Now, he did violate a rule, and the violation of the rule is simple. You can't go running in a jogging suit with the fingerless gloves.
Well, he is older. Maybe he has arthritis and it covers the joint part.
Okay.
Maybe.
All
something.
Right. It was wintertime.
It was winter.
Okay. But, now you can tell this old lady, like, had called his daughter and was like, will you come help your dad? He's doing something crazy.
Yeah.
And again, there's like I thought maybe a little bit of like shame that he felt. I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to be a surprise or whatever. But I also still kept seeing this chest press.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the
Standing
world
bench press with
is
a kettlebell.
he doing?
Yeah.
This old man is going to rip his rotator cuff out of his body.
Blow out his lower back.
So, okay, let's roll a little bit now. We've met the daughter. All right, last stop, I promise. I think that was the coolest part so far, is when he's outside in the wintertime, there's no heat in that place, and what does he see? He's got the two kids,
They're mirroring and they're watching what he's doing.
Yep, and they're doing the same thing. And I think that is when we talk about habits. Habits are formed when we're younger, and who we surround ourselves with will help determine if those habits are good habits or bad habits. And sometimes we all forget how many eyes we have watching us, how many people are looking at what we're doing, and the influence that we have. Because the only way to change the stigma of, hey, you know what? It's okay to work out when you're older is kids seeing their grandparents work out. And our generation, fitness wasn't huge back in the 70s and 80s when we were kids. So we didn't have a ton of people in our surrounding circles working out. I didn't. Did you?
No. Like if you were younger, if you growing up, if you watched your mom and dad or whoever either get up early, eat a good breakfast, or whatever, go to the gym first, and they did that daily or every other day, whatever it was, or you seen them do it every day after work, they made it a priority, and you watched that growing up, and then maybe you got a little older and they invited you to go with them, it'd be totally different for yourself when you got older, but most time you don't have that.
Yeah.
You have the kids wake up with the parents or whatever it is, they eat a crappy breakfast, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
The goal is like, hey, clean up your room and go to school.
Yeah.
We're not working. We're not taking care of our body.
And, you know, my dad he didn't work out. He ran a lot, and he had a buddy that they'd get together and they'd run all the time. That was a stress relief. But I can't tell you a time that my dad was at the gym and I saw him go to the gym. He stayed fit in other ways through running. And the same thing with my mom. My mom stayed fit by being a stay-at-home mom and raising me and my older brother and keeping us in line. And we ate healthy, but there was never a gym component. So when I started working out in high school, I didn't have anybody else I was watching. It was just I thought that was what we were supposed to do. Now I look and I'm like, man, think about how different this could be for this next generation, where fitness is so much more prevalent for people to see and be a part of. I think it could really change. However, then you add social media to that, and it almost like cancels it out. But
I think I'm the only one in my entire bloodline that I know that works. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my cousin does a little bit. He got back into it. But everybody else, they just don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got it from. To tell you the truth, I think it was growing in high school, basically hanging out with douchebags that they just bodybuilded and did bad stuff on the weekends.
Yeah.
So I would kind of get in with those guys, and I liked doing curls. I kind of liked it, and I was like, man, these guys look a certain way. I don't want to ever look like the other people. I don't know if that got me into it. I don't know what it was.
It's funny because that you're the sum of your 5 closest friends.
Yeah.
That's what those are the habits you're going to have. There's so many studies out there that show if you are overweight and you hang out with someone else overweight, then your propensity to remain overweight is much higher. If you're around bad people, your propensity to do those bad things are much higher. So I think that's what's hard for me as a parent is trying to influence your kids enough so that they can see positive character traits in their friends, because those friends are going to be who your kid turns out to be.
And you're not telling people or your kids to not hang out with overweight people.
Yeah.
You're just saying, hey, there could be a point maybe I'm not overweight, or we're both overweight, and then I choose to go a different path. Maybe our friendship kind of fades, or like, because you don't want to go that route.
Yeah.
So I'm at the gym more. I'm not hanging out with you more. There'll be something that happens, but you got to find that separation.
Yeah, and it could be anything. I think that, and that could be part of this lady that's next door is she's not taking care of herself, so she doesn't want someone else. It's funny how most people aren't rooting for you to win. And that sucks to say that, but it's true. So you're not watching someone else's social media because you want them to do amazing things.
You see all the good stuff on there, and you're like, God, they're just living an awesome life. It'd just be good to see them post something bad one day. Like,
Yeah.
what happened to them?
It's crazy. So again, so now we're getting to the end here, and it looks like he's getting ready to go to a party, and he's got a gift. So we'll play the end here. All right. So that's usually where Philip, he watched it about 50 times and he cried every time. So.
Yeah. I usually just fast forwarded to that part and went ahead and just got the cry over with.
And that's why I thought was such a brilliant ending. I mean, you got this guy that he is training, but we don't know what he's training for. He's looking at these pictures and watching people with the Christmas tree, and it's just, everything just kind of came together. And it just hit really hard at the end, because you could see how such an impact where he was able to do that. He was able to lift her up and let her put the star on the tree. And
it's crazy. Instead of doing shoulder presses and some push-ups and all that, kind of do it the right way, he just went straight to it for the workout.
Yep.
He made his own workout.
Yep. And
what would you call that lift?
Oh man, I don't know. I'd have to call it a chest press. You know,
Okay.
like a
All right.
And I think this is the type of win that someone like an older man or woman could have that could get them back on track. Because I think as you get older, it's easier to throw the towel in.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I can't do this. My knees hurt. My back hurts. There's so many that it's a completely different mindset you have to have. And if you don't make that transition, I can see how it could be very easy to say, you know what, man, forget this. I'm by myself.
The older generation just thinks if you work out, you're automatically at a way greater chance of getting injured. My grandma was always like, Philip, you better quit working out like that. You're going to hurt your back. Mm-hmm. I'm like, Grandma, don't your back hurt? Don't yours hurt? She's like, well, yeah. I was like, well, you don't work out and your back hurts. So I'll take my chances on it. I said, you sit a lot. You need to maybe every hour or so do a couple stand up, sit down, like just right there at your chair, instead of just sitting there the whole time, because I think she's really tight.
Yeah.
But she's worried like that I'll get hurt from working out.
I just think there's so much that changes with fitness and wellness, and if you don't have someone or some people that can help you make some changes, then it's going to be impossible. Because if you don't grow up with a background in fitness, how are you ever going to one day, when you are 60 years old, make any determination of what you should be doing?
Yeah. How are you going to start? Like,
What
you don't even know what to do.
What do you even do?
Yeah.
You're going to get a treadmill,
yeah.
and you're going to waste your time on a treadmill.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that there's so many more coaches out there right now. There's so many more professionals out there right now, that the way we change this is we educate those that are closest to us. We say, hey, you know what? Like my dad, I said, hey, Pop, let's get a skier. Let's get a bike erg. Let's get some light dumbbells and a torpedo, and let's do some things at home. I got my mom a bike erg. She puts it in her little sunroom, and she can get her hip moving a little bit. But you've got to, and you know what? My dad fought that thing like crazy.
I know.
It's like, I'm not doing it. Yeah.
It's another podcast.
I got it. Not put in the box. But, you know, they're so set in their ways because they just don't know any better. Yeah. It's like trying to teach someone about nutrition. Try and teach a 60 to 70-year-old person that fat is good for them. Tell me how that goes.
Yeah. People, they just don't. It's always been taught that fat makes you fat.
Yep.
That's it. They shouldn't have any. You cut the fat out, you're good. It just, I don't know.
And the problem is, you've got to really have an open mind, and people.
It's tough.
Not everybody is so. I'm as far from stubborn as it gets, right? So like, so I can imagine. I'm a very stubborn person, so I can imagine how tough it could be for people that are equally as stubborn in those areas that they don't want to listen to it. They've been brainwashed by the idiots in the FDA and telling them that that this food pyramid that we've been following for 50 years that have created one of the biggest obesity pandemics in history. But yet we're going to keep following that. That's leading us on the right track.
Yeah.
But that's what they've been pumped full of every TV, every box, every magazine they've read. And it's going to take a lot of people trying to change that misinformation that's out there.
I think it's hard too when through the older generation, if they see on the news, social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, nobody really shows. It's very rare that you see, say, a 250, 300, whatever they are, overweight person working out and grinding at the gym.
Yep.
They don't show that. You see people like Spencer's got 42 abs in there doing these crazy movements, and they look really cut up and whatever. That's all over the news and social media. So if I'm 60, 50, 70, whatever I am, sitting at home and I see that all the time, what's the chances I'm going to reach out to my local gym and be comfortable going in there with nobody to talk to, go with me, and try to start something?
Yep.
They need to show more of the regular people that are doing it every day and trying to just be healthy, lose 20 pounds, whatever it is.
And the reality is there's so many more of those people out there. There's so many more of those people that are just trying to make a change because it's all a similar reason. The older we get, the more we realize that it's not about us anymore. It's about those around us. It's going to be our kids, our grandkids, or whatever. And I tell my dad all the time, I said, man, I'm so glad he dropped a bunch of weight because now he's able to do so much more and he's healthier. So, he's going to be around longer. It's just, I think that so many of us become obsessed with work, and I'm a victim of this. So much of my priority is and work. I'm lucky that I'm in a gym that I can still have time to get fit, but I could see how it could be obsessive if you weren't in a gym. People work themselves until they're so sick that then they spend the next decade trying to undo everything that they did. So I just think it's got to be, you've got to be the voice of reason for your parents, the voice of reason for your grandparents if they're still around, and tell them, hey, Jess's mom and dad are still alive, and they are fairly fit. They do a great job, and Jess is always there to, kind of be that sounding board. Her mom is somebody that very educated, very smart, but it took a little while for her to buy into some of the nutrition changes that are taking place, and there's not enough people like Jess out there that can explain it in a way that makes sense. And now, it is catching on. So now, her family is kind of making some changes and doing some really cool things with their health, and it's unless we continue to do that, we're going to have that same problem to where you're going to be the one guy everybody's laughing at, like, oh, what's this weirdo doing trying to get fit? What an idiot!
Yeah, what an idiot for trying to stay healthy.
It's crazy.
I know. I personally know a few people that go to the doctor, and the doctor will give them this pill to try, and they'll try it. They don't like the side effects. It doesn't make them feel good. Well, they don't like it, so they go back to the doctor. He'll give them a different type. That one has a certain effect on them they don't like. They keep doing this, and they've been at this for months. And I've brought up to them, I said, hey, why don't you just, none of that's really working for you, and you're getting really upset. Why don't you just try to work out, and maybe we'll switch up your eating? They won't do it.
Oh, no.
But they'll go to the doctor every time and get a different chemical to pop in their mouth, and then they have these crazy side effects they do not like or they don't feel good. and I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's that.
You can tell them that, and after a couple of times, there's nothing you can do. You just have to hope that they'll want to change, because you can't force somebody to do it.
Yeah.
But eventually, maybe they'll do it on their own. You can't pull somebody in.
I think that's what's so great about this commercial, and this is why I'd love to do something like this at Vitality, is create something that's similar to this, that shows people, you know what, there's going to be a time when your fitness ability, your physical ability, you're going to realize that it's directly correlated to your quality of life. And no matter how late in the game it is, we can make some changes.
Yeah.
Now, the later in the game, the harder that change is to make. But, you know, right now I'm sure there's 50 and 60-year-old men and women out there that haven't touched a weight or done anything fitness related for themselves in decades. But you know what?
You might be 30, 40, like you've just never done it, and you could start now, and it'll make a big difference when you get that age.
Yeah. The hardest part is to start, and then from there, it gets easier every day. So I just, when I saw this, I sent it to Philip. I said, man, we got to do something on it. I hope that it, you know, I hope it made some sense the way we were looking at it, the way we talked about it. I just think that there's such a gap in fitness as we get older. Things like this, they need to be shown more so people can start to understand how important it is to take care of our bodies. We get one body, one. And the longer we wait to take care of that, the more problems we're going to have to undo.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to work. It's going to be hard to do anything, just go on vacations. And you can't, people say, I don't have time. I got to go to work. I got to do this and that. What if you can't?
Yeah.
Because you are sick or something's wrong physically.
Think about this. You spend 30 years of your life grinding away, and you amass a fortune of money.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I can't wait to get out and do stuff. Well, then you start having medical problems. So the time you finally stop working, now you're spending your time in and out of doctor's offices. You can't travel. You can't do anything strenuous. You can't, you know, maybe you can't ski anymore. You can't hike anymore. What in the world? What's the purpose of all the work?
I seen a meme, well, I guess a meme, just this thing, a picture one time had a guy, looks like he has about 4 or 5 arms on each side, like they were in motion. And he's got a watch on, he's got a cell phone, he's got a briefcase, he's got like fast food, he's all over the place, and he's in a suit. And the caption there was something like, find time for exercise, or later on you'll have to make time for illness, or it was something like that. Showing this guy really busy, and then it was like, you better find time, you're going to have to make time when you're sick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wild paradox. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. We've got some cool stuff coming. Please make sure you subscribe and check out our old stuff. We switched everything over to Vitality Fitness now. So when you look for the Built by Vitality podcast, it is a playlist under Vitality Fitness. Yep. So all of our old ones will be on there. And we got some cool stuff coming down the pipeline. So we're excited to keep bringing some cool content. Have a great day.